Saturday, September 16th, 1939. The Wehrmacht High Command reports, the southern group of the German Eastern Army also drove the scattered parts of the Polish Southern Army ahead of them on September 15th. There is still fighting with them at the gates of Lemberg and on the Tano near Bilgorai. Far to the east, motorized troops have reached Lodzimierz. Przemysl was taken. Using new German forces, the ring around the Polish army trapped at Kutno was strengthened and the attack narrowed. After repelling the enemy's attempts to break through to the southeast of Warsaw, our troops took 8,000 prisoners and 126 guns there and are now close to Praga. Bialystok was taken. The battle for the citadel of Brest is still ongoing. The Luftwaffe thwarted the attempt of the last Polish transport movements toward the eastern border. In the west, enemy artillery activity near Saarbrücken. Local enemy advances were repelled with considerable losses for the enemy. There were no air raids on German Reich territory. Sunday, September 17th, 1939. The Wehrmacht High Command reports, the cleansing of eastern Galicia continued on September 16th. Lemberg is surrounded on three sides, and Polish forces are retreating to the southeast between Lemberg and Przemysl. North of the San estuary, our troops continue to advance towards Lublin. Lublin was taken. 100 undestroyed aircraft fell into our hands there. At Vlodava, south of Brest, the leading reconnaissance troops of the armies from East Prussia and the armies from Upper Silesia and Slovakia joined hands. The Battle of Kutno proceeds as planned. Kutno was taken from the west, and the Bzura was crossed to the north. Warsaw is tightly enclosed. In order to protect the population of the Polish capital from severe suffering and terror, the German Wehrmacht attempted to use an officer to persuade the Polish military commander in Warsaw to give up his pointless resistance in an open city of over 1 million people. The Polish military commander in Warsaw refused to receive the German officer. The attempt by scattered Polish troops to escape to the southeast via Siedlce ended with the capture of 12,000 men. 80 guns, 6 armored cars, and 11 aircraft were also captured. While the weather conditions continued to be unfavorable, the Air Force deprived the retreating enemy east of the Vistula of the opportunity to organize his units through repeated attacks on troop gatherings and marching columns. The radio stations Wilna and Baranowice were destroyed by air raids. In the west, the enemy suffered significant losses in some raiding operations in the Zweibrücken area. An enemy captive balloon was shot down. There were no air raids on the Reich territory. Special report: the citadel of Brest-Litovsk was taken. This means that the Brest-Litovsk fortress is in German hands. When the citadel was occupied, 600 prisoners were taken. The Navy successfully continued the trade war in the Baltic and North Seas and in the Atlantic. In the Baltic Sea, naval forces intervened with their artillery in the fight against the last Polish troops still offering resistance near Gdynia and Hela. Monday, September 18th, 1939. The Wehrmacht High Command reports, the campaign in Poland is coming to an end. After the complete encirclement of Lemberg and the capture of Lublin, part of the German Eastern Army is in the general line Lemberg, Lodzimierz, Brest, Bialystok, and has thus occupied most of Poland. Behind it, the destruction and capture of individual scattered remnants of the former Polish army is still happening in several places. The strongest of these encircled Polish combat groups, about a quarter of the Polish army, is squeezed into a very small space southwest of Visegrad, between Bzura and Vistula, and has been heading towards dissolution since yesterday. On September 17th, Polish broadcasters sent a request from the enclosed Warsaw to the High Command of the German Wehrmacht to receive a Polish parliamentarian. The Wehrmacht High Command has declared its willingness to do so. By midnight on September 17th, no parliamentarian had arrived at our troops. The Luftwaffe effectively attacked the Polish forces trapped southwest of Visegrad. Polish air forces no longer appeared on the entire front. The German Air Force has essentially fulfilled its task in the east. Numerous units of the Air Force and anti-aircraft artillery are pulled together and made available for other use. No significant fighting in the west. A French plane was shot down by a German fighter near Saarbrücken. There were no air raids on German territory on September 17th. Tuesday, September 19th, 1939. The Wehrmacht High Command reports, the dissolution and surrender of the scattered or surrounded remnants of the Polish army are progressing rapidly. The Battle of the Bzura is over. So far, 50,000 prisoners and an incalculable amount of booty have been brought in. The final result cannot yet be determined. A smaller enemy combat group was destroyed northwest of Lemberg, and 10,000 prisoners were taken. Lemberg was asked to surrender. After the absence of the Polish parliamentarian, fighting activity began again outside Warsaw. The city is defended by the Poles without regard to the population, which is over 1 million people. Yesterday, the Air Force only carried out individual attack flights. Furthermore, its deployment on the Eastern Front was no longer necessary. On the West Front, in the Saarbrücken area, weak artillery and scout troop activity in individual places. The enemy was observed entrenching on many occasions. There were no combat operations in the air. The sinking of the aircraft carrier Courageous, announced by the British Admiralty, has been confirmed by the report of the attacking German submarine. Wednesday, September 20th, 1939. The Wehrmacht High Command reports, the Battle of the Vistula Arc, which began about a week ago near Kutno and then moved east against the Bzura, is now proving to be one of the greatest battles of annihilation of all time. Yesterday, the number of prisoners at Bzura alone increased to 105,000 and is constantly growing. In addition, the enemy suffered extremely high bloody losses. The captured war material is inestimable. In the whole of Poland occupied by us, more serious resistance is only being offered in and south of Modlin and in Warsaw. Our troops, which had advanced in pursuit of the enemy to the Stria-Lemberg-Brest Bialystok line, are now being withdrawn as planned to the demarcation line finally established between the German and Russian governments after the destruction of the last remnants of the Polish army there. The fighting near Gingen ended yesterday with the capture of the naval port. Here, too, several thousand prisoners fell into our hands. The training ship Schleswig-Holstein and the forces of the leader of the minesweepers intervened effectively in these battles. The use of the Air Force on the entire front is limited to reconnaissance activities. In the West, only local scout activity. Thursday, September 21st, 1939. The Wehrmacht High Command reports, the result of the battle in the Vistula Arc can still not be fully overlooked. By the afternoon of September 20th, the number of prisoners had risen to 170,000 and was still growing. One of the two German armies involved in the battle has so far captured 320 guns and 40 combat vehicles alone. According to previous information, 9 divisions and parts of 10 other divisions and 3 cavalry brigades fought on the Polish side in this battle. In the south, after a hard fight at Zamość and Tomaszow, strong Polish forces surrendered to the German troops, including the commander-in-chief of the Polish Southern Army. Since September 10th, 60,000 prisoners have been taken there, and 108 light and 22 heavy guns have been captured. The loot in the battles for Gdingen increased to 350 officers, 12,000 men, and about 40 guns. Resistance is now only offered in Warsaw and Modlin, southeast of Warsaw near Góra Kalwaria, and on the Hela Peninsula. In the next few days, the Wehrmacht High Command will give a summary report on the campaign in Poland. In the west, 3 captive balloons and 8 enemy aircraft were shot down. Otherwise, no events. Friday, September 22nd, 1939. The Wehrmacht High Command reports, the movements of the German and Russian troops to the agreed demarcation line are taking place according to plan and in good agreement. At Lemberg, the German troops fighting there were replaced by Russian units. The number of prisoners and loot, already reported as a result of the Battle of Tomaszow, is still growing steadily. Several Polish attempts to break out of Praga were rebuffed. On the Warsaw-Siedlce route, an enemy armored train was captured near Kalishin after a short battle. 178 members of the diplomatic corps and 1,200 other foreigners were able to leave Warsaw yesterday via the route determined by the German command authorities. They were received by German officers and transported to Königsberg that night in trains provided. All foreigners are safe and sound and unharmed. In the west, there were only isolated raids. A French fighter plane was shot down in a dogfight.
Join us also next Sunday for the subsequent Wehrmacht reports. In the meantime, you can discover many more military history audiobooks on Major Antonio's YouTube channel. Thank you for listening, and so long.